Hello and welcome to my worst books of 2024. These are all the books that I gave less than 3 stars to. Luckily, there are not too many of them because I DNF like crazy. I DNF so fast, I don't even care. So these are the books that for some reason I decided to keep going with, mostly because they were short and I got through them pretty fast, so whatever, I just continued. And also I was probably bored. So you know, there are only 7 books and I was not able to rank them. I tried, but honestly, I didn't care enough, so I didn't do it. So these are just going to be in order of when I read them. First up is How to Bite Your Neighbor and Win a Wager by D.N. Bryn. This was not good. Like, this was straight up bad. I don't even know what this book is about, I'm not gonna lie. I know it had to do with vampires and like the vampire dude was like sneaking into this guy's house to like suck his blood at night or something, and that somehow turned into a romance? Couldn't tell you guys. I don't know. It was bad. It was so bad. This was my first book by this author and I was so let down by it. I have so many of their books on my TBR, and since reading this one, I'm not sure how many of them I want to actually read now, and I'm sad about that because they all sound so interesting. But this book really put me off their entire collection of works, so we'll see. I'll probably still try them at some point or another, but I'm much less hopeful now than I was then. And that one got a 2.5 star. And then we've got Mortal Follies by Alexis Hall. Oof. Oh, this was so bad. Also got 2.5 stars. Honestly, that's probably being generous. I'm not gonna lie. You know what? This one might actually be the worst book of the year. I think so. I hated this book so much. The only saving grace was that I really enjoyed the narrator. It was this like pixie fairy type thing who was just narrating this story of this girl who was cursed or something or other. I forget the details, but the fairy was hilarious. She had this very dry humor that I actually enjoyed. Everything else sucked. The romance was not only bad, but it was also incredibly uncomfortable because the main character was just throwing herself at this girl over and over and over again, and she kept saying no. Very politely, but also very firmly saying no. Not gonna happen. The love interest made it clear that she was interested in her, she was attracted to her, but she made it exceptionally clear that nothing would ever come of that and to stop trying, and this girl just kept throwing herself at her. Very aggressively, like literally got in a carriage and rode for like 3 days to go to her house uninvited and force herself on her, basically. Like, it was ridiculous and so uncomfortable to read, and I have no idea how that is considered to be romantic, but it was just creepy. This book made me so angry that people like it. I don't think many people do, but the people who do, why? Like, this was not a romance to me, it was kind of coercion. Next up is The Sacrifice by Ron Chupeco. This author is just really not for me. People who love them, love that for you. Glad you're having a good time. Not for me. Don't know why. This is the second book that I've read from this author, and then I DNF'd a third one, and I don't know why I keep trying, but I'm going to stop trying. Premise-wise, this book is fantastic. I loved how it sounded. The atmosphere was very, very cool. It was super creepy. I loved the sentient forest magic. It was cool as hell. But this book was so flat. It was so boring. There was no life to it at all. Like, nowhere to be found. There was so much that could have been done with this book that just didn't happen. You know, it was so boring, and that upset me greatly because this could have been so good. It could have been fantastic, and it just was not. So, what can you do? And then we've got She Is a Haunting by Tran. This one I was also very let down by because it could have been so good, and it had elements that were good, and they just didn't quite get there. It needed that extra little bit of something, and it just fell flat for me, unfortunately. I did like the hauntings, like the actual ghost stuff was pretty good, but the rest of this book was kind of dumb. The main character is in this creepy ass house, there's bugs everywhere, things are being weird, there's a ghost telling her not to eat the food. Very interesting premise. However, the majority of this book was actually about the main character and her friend faking hauntings because nobody will believe her about the real hauntings. So she fakes them to try and get them to believe the real ones. And so most of the book is the fake hauntings and not the real hauntings. You know, it was dumb. Like, it was not good. And like the real hauntings were actually really good and really creepy. And they were not at all the focus for the majority of this book. So, unfortunately, not a good one for me personally, obviously. If you liked it, great for you, but I did not. And that was also a 2.5-star read. And then we've got the manga Dracula by Shinichi Sakamoto. I read the first book. I guess I read it. I don't really know. I did read it, obviously, but I don't know what I read. Like, I literally couldn't tell you a single thing about this plot. It made zero sense to me. Maybe my reading comprehension skills were not great that day, but I don't have a damn clue what I read. Nothing made sense to me. It just seemed like this random sequence of scenes being strung together that had no relation. Like at all, really. I gave it 2 stars because the art was gorgeous. It was beautifully done, but everything else about it, the characters, the plot, the dialogue, all of it, terrible for me. Genuinely not one clue what happened in that book at all. I thought I was getting it for the first little bit, the whole part where it's on the ship and there's the thing growing. I don't know, I kind of got that, and then the students came into play and I'm like, what is happening here? I don't know. It was weird, didn't like it. Not gonna continue with the series. And then we've got Daughters of the Dawn by Serena and Sasha Nanua. This is the sequel to, what is it? Sisters of the Snake, I think it's called. Yeah. The first book I liked. It wasn't great, but I did like it. The magic system was super interesting. I loved the whole sister dynamic. The plot was really interesting. So book 2 had a lot of potential for it to go somewhere super cool, and it did not. Instead, the vast majority of this book was focused on really awkward budding romances that were kind of insta-lovey and really obvious and just not good, not well-written romance at all. And in the background, you had this super interesting plot and like world-saving political stuff going on. Really, really cool magic system, and none of that was explored at all because they were so focused on awkward teenage romances, and I was so disappointed and frankly pissed off about it. Because again, book 1, it was really good. I gave it a 3.5 star. It had, you know, some of those like awkward budding romances that were starting, but those didn't start until the end of the book, so there was lots of room for it to go somewhere really, really, really interesting. And book 2 could have brought it home, and it just didn't. And I was so upset about it. Sadly, not the series for me. The potential was there, and it just did not follow through. So what can you do? And then finally, A Holly Jolly Diwali by Sonya Lalli. This was one of the last books that I read of the year. I had high hopes for it within, you know, reason. It was just like a quick, fun, like holiday romance kind of thing, but I didn't expect to dislike it this much. I liked the setting a lot. I thought it was super fun. It mostly took place at a wedding in Mumbai. I loved all that, all the family stuff going on. That was all really great, but the romance was so bad. So bad. The main character is very childish, I find, and the sexual tension felt like reading a 14-year-old's diary. So, didn't enjoy that at all. I gave it a 2.5 star. Again, that's probably being generous, but I can't be mean. I hate being mean. But yeah, this was not a good romance. It could have been really good. Again, the setting was great, and the potential for the romance, I did like the main character and the love interest in concept, just not so much in practice. Yeah, it was just very awkward and cringy, and like the main character was supposed to be 29, I think, or something like that, and she did not act like that at all. So, you know, didn't really enjoy that one, but hey, it is what it is. It was a quick read, and that's really all that I can say for it, so. Oh, and then we do have a special mention, which is Season Greetings by Sierra Simone and Julie Murphy. Technically, on Goodreads, I gave this a 3 star, but realistically, this was a 2-star book. It got the extra star because this book takes place on a cruise ship where the main character is the one like running the whole show, and she's putting on a knockoff Twilight themed musical, and this whole book was just full of Twilight references and jokes and puns, and it was hysterical. So it got 3 stars purely for the memes. I also read this book the day after doing an entire Twilight series marathon with my friend. I had no idea that this book had Twilight themes to it. That was just a happy coincidence, and it brought me so much joy just for that. But quality-wise, this is actually a 2-star read, so. Anyways, those are all of my worst books of 2024. Again, not that many of them. Very happy about that. My DNF list is fast, and that's why this list is so much shorter. But let me know what the worst books that you read last year, or if you read any of these ones, let me know. If I talked about one of your favorites, I'm sorry, but also I'm not that sorry. We are allowed to disagree on books. That is okay. But that'll do it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys later on. Bye.